We keep it going on this edition of News You Can Use. On our program today, which is a special edition of News You Can Use, we are shining the spotlight on a discussion about our young ladies in particular. You're hearing the perspective of grown women who are professional women, who are loving women, and who want to be supportive to our young girls and our teenage girls out here in our community. And we hope that you mothers and or you fathers who are watching the program have gathered your young ladies in particular around the television set so we can share with you just a little bit. Now, when we went to break, I was saying something about, we're going to hear from Stacey Shields, Esquire, some of the legal stuff that young people, male or female actually, should think about. But young ladies in particular, since this conversation is for them, getting with boyfriends and whatnot who tell you, hey baby, just hold that bag for me in your room. Don't look in the bag, just hold it, it's safe, it's cool. Do you really want to do that? And we also want to hear your perspective, Dr. Evelyn Ridgway from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and yours, Dr. Donnie from Einstein Medical Center, about this depression thing a little bit more, and where our young ladies are with those kind of figures, if you will, from your knowledge in that area. But Stacey, let's start with you. These young girls who get convinced by their boyfriends to help them in robberies of people out on the street, help them with, or just riding in a stolen car that they know their boyfriend didn't have a car. You don't sit in that car, and so on.
Well, first of all, it's the, you either can follow the crowd or you can walk alone. They've got to learn that you can walk alone. You follow the crowd, you're only going to go as far as the crowd. But if you walk alone, you can go places no one else can be. If you go ahead and I tell them, I say, you get in that car, and I don't know you, Evelyn's going to do a robbery. Learn how then to cut the conspiracy. How do you cut the conspiracy? You cut the conspiracy by as soon as the person says, hey, I'm not doing it, leave the scene, get out of here, bye, and so forth. But nobody wants to do it because that doesn't make me cool. I don't have the street cred anymore, right? I'm going to roll. So now I'm going to roll with this person because I love you and I want to be with you. And so I'm going to do this. So now I go ahead, I do this, and now I got a felony record. Forget all the jail time because we're too comfortable visiting jails. When I go up to jails, I don't go up as much as I used to. 90% of the people visiting, 95% of the people visiting are women. They're there, and they don't see it as an uncomfortable setting. And they bring the children. Nobody teaches the children that looking at this person in this jumpsuit is bad. So then she doesn't think it's going to be too bad because her man is doing the time. He's okay. He looks, you fine. You doing fine, so I can do the time with him. So doing the crime with him is not a big deal. And then when when reality hits, when I get out, I need a job, and I have a felony. And every application says that. You've been arrested? Yes. Right? Got a conviction? Yes. Felony? Yes. Thank you, we don't need you. So now I'm in a situation where I think for the rest of my life I'm going to have to rob, steal, and cheat because I can't get past a felony.
I think it's part of the problem is that a lot of this generation, they don't think about consequences. So they just think about the now. But we need to teach our children that there are consequences to everything. Sometimes there's positive consequences, and sometimes there's negative consequences. And we have to decide, are you willing to live with it? So if we're speeding in the car, the consequence could be a ticket. Are we willing to pay that $150 ticket? Are we willing to take that consequence for wherever we're going or not? If not, then you need to slow down. And we need to teach our children you don't want to be in jail. I think that just like you said, they're comfortable with the idea, well, if I go to jail, I'll just, I'll figure it out there. No, you don't want to go to jail. It's a place you don't want to be, and there's long-term consequences to that. So practice in your life as if you're going to stay away from jail.
Well, one of the hurtful things that I've experienced in the now almost 11 years that I have worked in Philadelphia prisons doing life skills classes one night a week for a couple of hours is that I am meeting women who are incarcerated who are telling me, yep, my mom is at Muncie, I'm here. Or my daughter is up at on Riverside and I'm here. We're a mother and daughter, and we're in the same fight. A physical fight out in the street, over some dumb stuff.
Another thing is that in the age where everything is on camera, they have cameras everywhere. Someone is always watching. There's an iPhone or a Droid phone, a smartphone everywhere. People are recording everything. People think that they're going to get away with it, and they're okay with, thinking that, I'm going to get by this. You have to realize people are always watching, and it's not worth it to steal candy and then, you know, get a record from that, or steal clothes.
Speaking of cell phones and video footage, Dr. Evelyn, the psychology of the mothers who have the daughters who say, you're going to fight that girl the day after school because she called you a name last week. And so you can got grown women coming to a school, and I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing.
Right.
Take that smile off your face, Thera. Grown women come to school with their daughters and encouraging them to fight, and then videotaping it, and then they're so dumb, posting it to the world on Facebook or Twitter or what have you, and the cops are at your door because you're getting ready to be arrested.
Right, and I think it goes right back to the whole self-esteem issue. It's where are we getting our esteem from, and also not thinking about the future. Our esteem is it's so important for who we are. It's so important as a human being to feel like you're valuable and that you're important. And when we don't have that feeling inside of us, when it's not inside of us, we look to replace it on the outside. And that's when we replace it with boyfriends who may be doing things that they shouldn't be doing, but at least I have a boyfriend, I have somebody who I can attach myself to. But also I think moms, when moms are doing that what they're doing, that's their self-esteem. They are kind of showing off, you know, what they feel is something powerful in their daughter, and you know, they're posting that, and that's where they're getting their esteem from. But your esteem can't come from that. It can't come from there. It has to come from within. When you have that confidence within yourself, you don't need to be putting things like that out there.
The question is, how do you get a female to get that confidence in herself when she's been exposed to stuff that she thinks is normal?
Right.
So how do we help her to get that
I know
confidence?
for me, it was a self-awakening. I think most of all, it was a self-awakening. And maybe a little bit of it had to do with Joanne, my mother, sending myself and my sister to modeling school. And so that, you know, will teach you to stand and sit a certain way and all of that. Maybe that was a piece of that self-confidence. But I also think that one day I looked in the mirror and I said, oh my God, I am beautiful. Right. And whether or not I was beautiful doesn't really matter. That I thought I was beautiful, and my confidence level just shot up, and I started doing things and being places and getting involved in programs that never before with that shy Thera, who didn't have confidence in herself, do.
Right. Well, self-talk is so important, and I have my own personal story that really kind of taught me that personally. And that was when I was in graduate school, actually, and the program that I was in, I was the youngest student in the program. I was 22 years old, but the average age in that program was about 35 or so. And so I had just come from an undergraduate experience where we talked about guys and girls. You know, the guys are doing this, the girls are doing that. So I called myself a girl. And I didn't see myself as a woman. And that term just didn't sit right with me. But when I was in this program with these older women who call themselves women, and when I would call myself a girl, it was kind of like, you're not a girl, you're a woman. So it was kind of like this peer pressure that made me kind of start calling myself a woman, but I started doing it. And the more I did it, the more I started to believe it. And when I found that I really felt that I was a woman, I started expecting people to treat me differently. Because a woman deserves a certain amount of respect that a girl might not get, right? So when I say something as a woman, you know, that should be paid attention to. And that's not to say that our girls shouldn't be paid attention to, but there's a certain thing about kind of the wisdom and the maturity that I started to believe in myself from actually that self-talk, from calling myself a woman and not even believing it when I started to say it. So I think it's very powerful when as girls and as women, we can look in that mirror and we can say, you know what, I'm beautiful. I may not believe it today, but if I keep telling myself that, you know what, one day I really will believe it. I really will. And you know, that happened with me.
That goes back to something that you said earlier about how we dress. Because if you're dressing in very, very short shorts or, you know, breast exposed, people are going to treat you differently. But if you're dressing and you're covered up and it looks like you respect yourself, then other people are going to respect you differently. And I think that that's very important to teach our girls. We're talking about concrete things you can do. We're going to teach our girls that, that you cover up. that you cover up the front and you cover up the back, and there are still some areas that are private. Personally, my preference is not to have girls that have words on their bottom, because that just means that somebody is going to just be drawn to that area. Or I teach my kids not to have t-shirts that they don't understand.
Yes.
Don't
yes.
have t-shirts, don't advertise anything that you don't understand. It has to be fully legible, it has to be respectful, and you're not going to have anything on your shirt that you don't fully understand.
Years ago, I purchased a shirt from one of the clothing stores that's in Philadelphia, and it was a yellow shirt. I just thought this shirt, it was a t-shirt, and it said unemployed. Well, at the time I was unemployed. I was fresh out of college, and college, that young girl mentality, right? And I didn't see anything wrong with wearing a shirt that said unemployed. Well, some of the lewd comments I got from strangers on the street, I got rid of that shirt and never wore it again. But I mean, I wore it about 3 times with that same reaction coming from strangers. And I said, wow, it's very important what we wear that may send the wrong message.
But the thing is, I'm sorry. The thing is that I, interview a lot of young people to come, work with us, and what I see is they don't know that that's not good dressing. They don't know that, and I'm like, wow, you really came to the interview showing me your twins, and and showing me you really don't think anything's. They really honestly, and I'm in the interview like, wow.
They haven't had that role modeling, and role modeling is so important. Having that example, and again, I do think in a lot of ways it does go back to parents or to other mentors. We talked about Aunt Stacy, or it could be Dr. Evelyn or Dr. Donnie. It could be Miss Thera. Any of us who are in a position where young people can look up to us, and we can model that, and we can show them success. And we can show them vulnerability, because I do think that that's another key piece to it is that a lot of this hard stuff, a lot of this fighting stuff is because people don't want to show vulnerability, because they feel so vulnerable is really what it is. They feel so vulnerable.
We're going to get to that school shooting scenario in a few minutes, but I even as I listen to you, Dr. Evelyn, I'm thinking about the young ladies who will allow themselves to be felt up, let's say, while they're waiting for the bus on a corner. And, boys' hands or girlfriend's hands, same-sex stuff. True. And the hugging and the tonguing and the kissing, and you're out in the public, it's broad daylight. And again, I'm a grandmom at this point in my life. I'm like, oh my God, I wonder what her mother would think if she saw her right now. So let's talk about sex for a couple of minutes. And let's start with you, Dr. Donnie, again from Einstein Medical Center, with the medical perspective on protection, which I am not supportive of young people and young teens having sex, but God knows if you do.
Sure. Well, of course, we do encourage abstinence, but if we encourage parents to talk to their children, because in some cases it's just not going to be realistic, and we encourage them to protect themselves, talk to their doctor, use condoms always. Sexually transmitted diseases are very common, and we need girls to know that they can say no. They can bring their own condom, and if he won't bring a condom, if he won't use a condom, then you shouldn't be with him, because there's too many very dangerous things going around. And if you're showing symptoms, it hurts when you urinate, or you see, some abnormal discharge, then you have to get it checked out, because something might be wrong and you can pass it on. And I would just encourage girls just to be a self-advocate, because often they're not. We've
got to go to break in about 60 seconds. So real quick, Dr. Donnie, come right to the point on when the guy says to a young girl, it doesn't matter if I don't use a rubber, because I'm only gonna, and it'll be fine, you'll be okay.
Sure. I mean, you can't just say, they can't just say to you, it doesn't feel the same, so I'm not going to use it. You have to use it. You have to protect yourself. A lot of times girls feel like they're going to be with this person forever, but often that's not the case.
Forever is so short.
Forever is so short, and often they've been with other women, and you have to protect yourself. And a condom is just a partial way to do it. Condoms can break, but at least that's one way to protect yourself from STDs, and get checked. Talk to your doctor.
All right, we promise we're coming back in just a moment as we do the last part of our special series, talking about our young girls on the street from a grown woman's perspective. Stay with us.
Hey, fellow TV viewers. Are you bored? Are you tired of the same old shows? Having thousands of channels to watch, but there's nothing there? Tired of sitting by yourself on your old mama's striped couch? Sitting in your room by yourself, watching someone who resembles your grandfather? Yeah, I know. I used to be just like you. By now, all hope is lost. You're flipping through channels, wondering what to watch. Boring, 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 boring. Wait, what's this? LaSalle TV. It's new, it's bold, it's great. It's not your ordinary TV.
And we're back now as we continue with the last portion of this special from a grown woman's perspective. We're talking about our young ladies on the streets of Philadelphia, young girls, and at the end of the day, it is our hope and our goal that we can encourage our young ladies to make something out of your life, that there are opportunities out there available for you, that there are people who love you. And it does kind of start with yourself, loving you and believing in yourself and what you can do. And also not falling for the okie doke and not following the crowd and the peer pressure thing that will lead you to negative things happening in your life. We want all good and positivity for you. On our panel discussion, we've got Dr. Donnie Patterson. She's from Einstein Medical Center. She's a family doctor.
Yes.
Did I say it the right way?
Yes.
Okay, and we have Stacy Shields Esquire, who is a partner with Moody Shields Law Group. And then we have Dr. Evelyn Ridgway, she's a psychologist at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and myself, a broadcaster and mom and grandmom, and I'm just glad to be here with all of you ladies sharing, and hopefully what will come out of this, again, positivity for our young ladies. We've sort of talked about a number of things related to young girls and teenage girls and some of the challenges they face on the street and what we see from our perspective and what they're doing with their lives. And we want to spend a little bit of our time toward the last 5 to 7 minutes of the show to talk about some of the solutions. And I think we've been peppering our conversation all along with some solutions. Yes. But Doctor, I'd like to go back to you, Dr. Evelyn Ridgway, right now, to just give us a perspective on the mental situation, if you will, with young people. And we know it hasn't been any women that we know of, or young girls or teenagers involved with school shootings.
Right,
but can we talk about that for a minute?
Well, I mean, I think it's worth talking a little bit about why it's probably not some of the young women. When we look at things like we talked earlier about suicide, we know that when girls attempt suicide, they tend to attempt suicide by things like, taking pills, things that are not as violent in terms of how it's being done. Of course, killing yourself, I think, is a violent act anyway. But boys tend to do things like using guns, shooting themselves, being reckless in cars and having car accidents that may have been really a suicide. And so I think some of this acting out that we are seeing in the schools and these murders that are occurring in schools have to do with kind of the way that boys respond with violence. I think we're much more relational. I mean, it just is kind of the nature of the beast, Girls tend to be much more relational. I think that's when we see a lot of that bullying that happens with girls. Girls can be really, really horrible with that. Stacey, you talked earlier about when you are talking with young people, you can go right at it. With boys, you can just go right to the point with boys. With girls, it's all about relationship. And so I think a lot of what girls do is this really mean bullying stuff, and it ends up killing, because it ends up with suicides. We've heard a lot about that in the news, and a lot of that actually is with girls. There have been some boys as well, but a lot of it actually has been with young girls who are just treated so meanly.
I did a show about bullying in the past, and we had some callers call in, and they said that bullying really didn't exist and that we were just kind of raising punks. females and males. But what bullying is, it's someone taking power over someone else, someone that they feel that they can control. So it's not just about people arguing, it's about someone actually taking control over someone or feeling like they have control over someone and really tormenting them. And the difference is that we need to teach our children how to have conflict resolution. That's very different than someone being bullying. Yes, everyone is going to get in conflicts with people, and how we solve those conflicts really makes a big difference in the outcome. So we need to teach our kids how to work through conflicts. There's always going to be conflicts, but that's very different than someone having control over you, having power over you, and really humiliating you.
All right, I want to go to reality check. So that means I'm going back to Stacy Shields, Esquire, for some legal stuff, some legal talk. Sentencing guidelines. Do sentencing guidelines at some points, depending on the case, could impact a young person, a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old, who does some kind of a crime? So give me some, like, what'll happen if you have 2 pounds of pot on you? What'll happen if you get caught at a bank trying to rob a bank with some other teen girls?
Well, here's the thing. It's really with juveniles, it really has to do with the age. If you do something heinous at 15, they're going to try you as an adult. The prosecutor's going to go in, he's going to go up there to the judge, and it's going to try their best to get you tried as an adult, when it's something very, very bad. If it's something lightweight, they'll send you to, all right, let's use the recent example. There were 2 13-year-olds who convinced the 11-year-old to do the sex tape. And those 13-year-olds, they'll probably be your client, trying to help them with the psychological part. But had they killed that girl, it would have been, we need to try these 13-year-olds as an adult, because, so it's always, if you really look at it, it's not like always not just, but if you look at it when it's a juvenile who's done something bad, you can be rest assured they're going to try to get that person. But the good thing in Pennsylvania is looking at juveniles, not Pennsylvania, Supreme Court, I'm sorry, is looking at whether juveniles, because as you both in doctors have spoke about, there's some mental capacity there, about whether they should really give juveniles life. Are they fully developed enough?
Right, and they aren't. I mean, we know that brain development, and particularly the frontal lobe, which is where we do all of the executive function is what we call it. So it's where we make our judgments, where we have our really good decision making is in the frontal lobe, and that is still developing into the early 20s.
Wow.
And the studies have shown that for guys, it develops way into the late 20s, like 25, 26. So we're allowing them to have these, very important decisions around 17, 18, but their frontal lobes aren't fully developed until 25, 26. And so, I mean, those are things that we have to take into
and I think
consideration.
If we would know that about boys, versus girls, it would help us as adults to deal with them. We already have to deal with the, males and females differently, but it would help us, if we know that, come on, this boy is still developing.
I think that there's
because I used to always say, girls are just smarter. I was like, no, they're not. That's what I did. I said, but you're smarter.
Well, they do develop differently. You're right.
Right, and now I've learned, but before I just thought, we were smart.
I think there's something that happens to boys around the age 17, 18. I mean, they're graduating from school, and we're saying you're an adult, and you go and you be on your own, and we're pushed, sometimes they're pushed out and they're expected to, know exactly what to do, but they're not quite adults. But we had talked about some, really concrete things that we could do for our girls. And one thing is to let them be individuals. And I really think that that's hard as adults, to let girls be individuals, because we may not always approve of what they wear or always approve of, how they're going out the house. But if it's harmless, we need to, really kind of hold that to ourselves and let them be individuals. Because if they're not individuals now, when they need to make those judgment calls, they're not going to be individuals. They're going to be followers. So we need to emphasize to them to be individuals. And when it's harmless, let them make choices. Let them make choices about their lunch. Let them make choices about their after-school activities. Let them make some of their own choices.
And Dr. Donnie, that starts right at infancy and toddlerhood. motherhood. It really does. So, you know, we think about things like with our young children. I mean, they all want to kind of assert their own independence and say, no, no, I don't want this or I don't want that. But one of the things that I think about is how oftentimes when we take our kids around, family in particular, and you know, here comes Uncle such and so or Aunt such and so, and they want to get up on the child and kiss them and everything, and your child shies away from it, and we tend to say, no, that's, you know, that's Aunt such and so, you need to let her kiss you. If the child is saying no, what we're teaching them by telling them that they can't refuse that is we're teaching them that they can't listen to their own decisions about their own bodies. And then we wonder why girls can't say no when a boy wants to have sex with them and they don't want to have sex with him, or a boy wants to have sex with them without using a condom and they want him to use a condom. We haven't taught that to our little girls and to our little boys when they are infants. We've taught them not to listen to their own feelings about what feels comfortable to them. So it starts right there.
And also for women in domestic violence situations, how many times have we heard about women who stay? They know that they've been abused, they know that they've been a victim of violence, but then they stay. And it all goes back to they don't know how to be individuals. They don't know how to stop the cycle.
And some of those women who stay end up having to kill their abuser before it's all
or
over.
Vice
and then
versa.
you got to come back to Stacy again.
Right.
Or vice versa, they get killed. And
ladies, we've got 3 minutes to wrap up this show, so I really want each of you to leave our viewing audience with something that you want to give that message over to our young ladies in particular. So, Doctor, let's start with you and we'll work down to me.
Okay. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of our young ladies also are moms, or they're about to be moms, or they will be moms soon. And I do think one of the things that's really important is that we really do look at what we do with our young children, how we nurture our infants and toddlers, how we teach them that they are valuable, that the things that we say and do with them are key, that we need to act with them with a purpose. Everything that we say to a child, we should think about how is that impacting that child's esteem. Are we saying things that are positive, or are we saying things that are negative?
We'll remember that. Stacy?
Well, I'm going to pass on what my mother told me and my 5 sisters. She said, my body was gold, and everyone can't afford gold.
I like
So
that.
be careful to give it up.
that.
And I'll pass it over to you.
That's awesome. I want to remind people that domestic violence happens in teens as well, and that in the teens, they are preparing for adulthood. So they're preparing what to do. So they need time to experiment with relationships, but we have to talk to our teens and not let them be abused in those relationships as they're working it out, and let them figure some of the things out themselves, but help guide them along the way before they're out of our houses and on their own.
So what I'm hearing really from all 3 of my panelists and guests is that parents have got to be involved, or the caretakers of these young people, be that parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, well, moms, got to be involved, got to pay attention, got to see what's going on in your children's lives.
Absolutely. Pay attention, ask questions, keep the conversation going. Never let it stop. And sometimes the children feel like they seem like they may be annoyed, but they're listening. They're listening, and they appreciate that positive attention.
Ladies, I want to thank each of you so much for being a part of this special edition of our program. Dr. Evelyn Ridgway from CHOP, Stacy Shields, Esquire from Moody Shields Law Group, Dr. Donnie Patterson from Einstein Medical Center, and yours truly, Thera Martin Milling, the host of this show. Thank you for watching, and we certainly hope that we've inspired our young ladies most of all. Believe in yourself. You can be positive, and you can be a wonderful person, but you got to start by loving yourself. Everybody have a great day. Again, we thank you for watching. Remember, life is fragile. Handle it.